Okay, it's my pleasure this morning on the series I'm calling Reflections for Pharmacy Leaders Advancing the Profession to have with us Dr. Nancy Alvarez, who is currently Associate Dean for the University of Arizona's New Phoenix campus. Dr. Alvarez has held numerous practice experience jobs, or careers, I should say, in community pharmacy practice in particular, and also hospice and palliative care practice. She is a past president of the American Pharmacists Association, APHA, and she's also a past president of Phi Lambda Sigma, the honorary society. Leadership society. Honorary too, but leadership society for the profession. Okay, so welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll start off. We'd like to learn more about your journey as you've developed into various leadership roles. And in that reflection, you may wish to comment about key events or people that influence you in this journey.
Yeah, so thank you. I would say that I guess I've always been a leader in the sense that, you know, if I've seen something that I thought could be improved upon, I would, you know, dip my toe in and try to take my, to take my pass at something. So I can remember that very early on, but I guess I didn't really see it as being a leader. I mean, I've had a lot of positional leadership titles, but I guess I never really thought about it that way. And I would say I went to pharmacy school, and I was a national officer for APHA ASP. And I mean, of course you're a leader there, but, really, I guess maybe hadn't really settled into how I was feeling about that, and began my career, participated in state association work, and continued to participate with APHA, ran for office, was unsuccessful, ran again, and began to, work through various positions. But I'd say probably about 10 years into my career, I was a national officer for Phi Delta Chi, and I spent a term. And after that term was coming to a close, I was running for a second term. And in my term, we had some really terrible things happen that weren't really kind of behind the scenes in the national office. And so it wasn't brothers didn't have a line of sight to what was happening, and those of us officers, did our best with very, very limited resources, never making excuses, etc. And I was not reelected, and I will tell you that was probably the most traumatic experience that I had, and I can't even tell you how many days I cried over that. And in the immediacy of learning that I was not going to be a leader, or I was not going to be reelected, I had someone approach me to say, hey, would you like to be the director of our program next summer? And all I could hear was, oh, that's a consolation prize. Of course I'll do it, because that's what I do. I volunteer and help. But right now I'm hearing it as a consolation prize. And what it's turned out to be for me has been a shift in the road, a shift in my thinking, a shift in my ambitions related to that organization, and really has put me on a path to develop myself as a leader, formally develop myself as a leader, and to develop others. And I'm now part of the Pharmacy Leadership and Education Institute, and that's what we do. We develop leaders. And had I not lost that election, I'm not sure that my path would be the same. So that was really one seminal moment that I had. Really not recognizing the opportunity that was before me, because I was engulfed in grief over the fact that I had not been reelected to this high office. But it turned out to be, something that I would not do differently, although I probably wouldn't cry. I would, wish for that pain to go away. But it's really been transformational for me. The second thing I'd share with you is that fast forward a number of years, and I'm a board member for APHA. And as I took to the stage to introduce an award winner, I remember putting my hands on the lectern, and the lights had gone up and the teleprompter was waiting for me. And in a moment, I had a positive vision for myself, which I never did before. And as I gripped, I thought, oh my gosh, I could do this if I wanted to. And that was such a jarring thought for me that I almost forgot to start reading the lectern. And I've never forgotten it. It doesn't mean that I didn't revert back to my, little negative voice, but I actually had a positive vision for myself. And so that was another crucial moment for me. But the last I'll share is in my development, still learning and growing and helping others. I was at an APHA ASP mid-year regional meeting, and one of the national officers was speaking, and he had a slide, and it had a quote from Marianne Williamson, who says that our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, that our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure, that it is our light and not our darkness that frightens us. And it is like a lightning bolt hit me. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have, over the course of my career, operated from a place of scarcity and really not recognizing that there is value in what I do and there's value in what I offer, and that collectively it helps everybody, rise. And I'm telling you, students, it's only been, I don't know, 3 years that that's been made known to me, that I actually had that lightning bolt strike. And so my view has shifted tremendously, and I feel it, I think it, and it's amazing. It's been empowering and it's been liberating.
Wow. Wow. Thank you very much. Wow. That's great. Also, I'd like to ask you, what do you think will be your legacy in 20, 30 years? And I'll rephrase that, because often people don't say legacy. I'm not going to be in that history book, Heroes of Pharmacy, where they're talking about, but reflect on what you are reflect on what you're most proud of in terms of your contribution to help advance the pharmacy profession.
Well, thank you, because I honestly, don't really think about legacy. And it's not that I don't think I wouldn't be, someplace. It's more that I really am working very hard to live today. So who am I being today? How am I being today? And to what am I moving forward to in the future? And so I really, and I don't have children, I'm not married, so I don't really think about, legacy, and figure that, that others will decide based upon the body of work that I will leave, and, and I'm hopeful that they'll regard me positively, but I haven't spent a lot of time. But your other question, I have thought about recently. I'm training to be a coach, and there are a lot of questions that come up related to fulfillment, your life purpose, etc. So this is really fresh on my mind. And I think what I would say that I'm most proud of is that I've become educated. My grandfather didn't have an education at all. I don't even think he went to grammar school, kindergarten. And that, in 2 generations that has changed for my family. I am very proud to have been a president of the American Pharmacist Association, because it wasn't a dream that I had. I can't say that when I was a student national officer that, I was gazing out into the horizon thinking, ooh, one day I'm going to do that. It's been a slow and steady, gradual journey to the point that, that I have had that experience. And so that sometimes overwhelms me with pride to think about that, me, a quiet, shy, girl from, Mexican heritage could have that opportunity. It really, really strikes me. And so I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of serving with the presidents that I served with, those many years ahead of me, and those, right after me. They're tremendous, tremendous people. The president in front of me, in particular, Kelly Good, I always knew of her. I knew even we were on the board together, but it wasn't until we entered this presidential track where she was 1 year in advance of me that we actually deepened our friendship, and the work that we put in together. I'm so proud of that. And and then I have to say, my parents, being able to see me, on the stage, give an address, with their eyes filled with tears. I mean, I'm so proud of that. And I'm so grateful, that they had health and life to experience that with me. So I would say that's what I'm most proud of.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, advice for students. We all have advice for students. So what would you advise students? What kind of words of wisdom would you give them in their professional journey, especially as they become leaders? And often we think of everyone could be a leader, the little L, helping to influence others to advance the profession.
Sure. I think the first thing that isn't on my notes that just came up in my mind is that when they get advice, take it in and think about what works and what would work for you and what would not work, and then set it aside. That ultimately, the person that that you student becomes in the future is going to be dependent upon you and the choices that you make. And there's certainly nothing wrong with taking in information, but certainly vet it. Make sure that you're not simply taking it in and getting on a track where you think I need to do exactly that. Maybe you do, but maybe it's you have a different path for yourself. And so what I would say is, really get clear about your intentions. That's the first piece of advice I would give is, as you're thinking about your life and you're thinking about leading and you're thinking about developing yourself as a leader, asking yourself a very simple question. And that is, are you in love with the idea of being a leader? Or are you willing to do the hard work? Because I can tell you that leading is hard work. And it is required of us as pharmacists, and then in our lives as children, parents, sisters, brothers, whatever role that you're holding. Really ask yourself that question, because again, leading is very hard work and requires intention, which then leads to my second point, and that is spend a lot of time, all the time that you can, to develop self-worth. And that is to say that you're worthy of taking a shot. And when you fail, because you will fail at some things, learn and evolve, and then recognize that you're worthy of taking another shot, a little more supported by the learning that you gained from your first shot. So develop that sense of self-worth that comes from within your soul, your body, so that you can then position yourself to do great things, whatever that might be for you. And then the last piece of advice I would give is to be good to yourself, to really embrace yourself fully in all of your glory and all of your flaws, and focus upon that which you are proud. And do what you can to mute the self-judgments that are going to come, because we are our worst critic, and really do what you can to limit how you compare yourself to someone else. We are unique individuals. We have our own identities, and we certainly can learn from one another. So I'm not saying don't do that, but what I am saying is that as you move through your life, recognize the uniqueness of you and think about where you want to be based on how you are being today.
Wow, thank you very much from the heart. I appreciate that. And my final question, this is intended for a history course about how the profession has evolved. So when we study the decades of the 2020s, one of the key events in that decade will be, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. And like other things in our history, events that happen in the world shapes us and shapes also our profession. So looking at the COVID-19 pandemic, what do you think will we be saying about this as a turning point in our profession, that it was an opportunity for our profession?
You know, I actually have thoughts about this nearly daily. And, you know, and it's fascinating to me that, you know, that it seems so far removed as you listen to the news in January and February and driving into the office. You know, I listen to the local radio station and it's news, and I would just think, gosh, that just sounds so, you know, nebulous. And then almost instantaneously, like dominoes falling, even within my own world, you know, of changes on our campus and then changes to the professional meetings I was going to go to, and beginning to deal with, you know, with loss of the ability to get on a plane, loss of the ability to go to work, loss of the ability to attend APHA's annual meeting, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I thought, wow, like just the immediacy of, wow, I'm getting a glimpse into what it's like to perhaps live in areas that are not as liberated as the United States. So I found myself with great gratitude, first thought. Then as it began to progress and you begin to see what is actually happening, you know, in our communities, not only economic, but also in our pharmacies, you know, you just think, oh my gosh, this is, you know, this is like the bank runs of the, you know, of the 1920s, you know, where people are hoarding, or when you go into the grocery stores or into the pharmacies and you see empty shelves, or, you know, products that are one deep. So I had those thoughts as well. But I think for our profession, I'm so proud of, you know, knowing that, you know, that our colleges and schools of pharmacy are training people to go out and be of service. You know, I have classmates that are in community practice, you know, that didn't need to have their, you know, corporate management put down policies, but that they, you know, had common sense to go out and remove hand sanitizer from the, you know, from the shelves, because they recognize that that would be you know, a hot commodity, and they put it behind the pharmacy so that they could regulate and ensure that as many people could get product. Same thing with distilled water, you know, wanting to make sure that they had sufficient water available for their patients that have CPAP machines, you know, so that it wouldn't be cleared off the shelves. And so, you know, those are some of the things that I think about in the immediate time for our profession. But I think even broader and more global, you know, seeing how adaptable everyone in our profession has been, be it on our campuses, you know, at schools and colleges of pharmacy, in community practice, in hospital practice, our associations having to cancel their annual meetings and turn, you know, what was to be live information and leveraging technology really on the turn of a dime, you know, to have the APHA House of Delegates conduct its business for the profession virtually is still unbelievable to me within weeks of having canceled you know, the meeting. Hearing the town halls and all of the wonderful things that, you know, APHA is doing, ACCP, ASHP, you know, all of the A's and the N's really supporting our effort to be informed, to be connected, you know, and then of course you get to the even higher stratospheres of, you know, is this the time that we surge to advocate for our profession to be included in the Social Security Act? So for 10 years, it's been an initiative and a dream for the profession, and necessary in order to have sustainable services to really broaden access for patients. to patient or to pharmacist delivered patient care. And this may be the time. And I feel so hopeful. I know that, that our colleagues that are working in our associations are pushing ahead. I'm hopeful that, that those people who are members continue to support their efforts. But even more so, I'm hopeful that this pandemic has really shown the value to all pharmacists and all pharmacy students and technicians, the value of being involved, and how your small part, wherever you are, is going to make a big difference for patient care. And I know that, in the coming months, as we prepare for the receipt of a vaccination, at least I hope it's a few months, that we as pharmacy professionals are going to be ready to show the world that we are well trained and well positioned to be, the professionals that we are to advance public health and really ensure that our communities are safe because we are actively contributing. And I think that, that this horrible situation has enabled people to see that yes, pharmacy is essential, and that we do more than provide the product, which is important. But it's the service and the knowledge and the skills that also go along with that that are incredibly valuable. So that's what I'm hopeful that we will look back to say this was a crucial moment for our profession. Though as awful as it has been, that I'm hopeful will be a bright spot.
Thank you very much there, Dr. Alvarez, for your inspirational reflections. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome.